to see you. How are you?
He just had to do it.
I know.
It hadn't been too long for you.
I wasn't here when he was here last week. I haven't seen Coach in like a month.
We miss a lot of handshakes.
Absolutely.
He was sending me like emojis of handshakes.
No, that's
Do you guys have a handshake?
No, I just.
It's a secret handshake.
Aggressive.
Very aggressive.
This guy.
Yeah, I'm very excited when I get to see Coach. He's
All
my
right,
favorite.
let's talk about Kirk Cousins. According to a report, the Jets are willing to pay whatever it takes to lure him to New York. They have more than $70 million in cap space, more than enough to fit in what should be a monster contract for the quarterback. But, Coach, would teams be better off breaking the bank on Cousins or taking a quarterback in the draft?
On this decision, you have to be right either way. So typically you're taking a quarterback very high, or you're going to spend a ton of money in free agency like the Jets are. And if you're wrong, whoever that coaching staff is and that GM, they're not going to survive it. The quarterback will stay there, but usually you're not going to survive it. So if they feel that Kirk Cousins can be that guy, that force multiplier, that guy that not only gives them a chance to win games, but gives them a chance to compete for championships, then it doesn't matter what you pay. The cost is irrelevant at that point. You have to get that problem fixed. They tried to fix it with Mark Sanchez. You know, that worked for a very short amount of time with a really good team that they had there at the time. So it's, if they feel that he is that guy, to me, whether they break the bank or don't break the bank, they need to do whatever it takes.
Coach, from a franchise standpoint, the pluses and minuses to taking one of these quarterbacks. Let's just forget Kirk Cousins if he's available. Let's just say this team, if their front office decide they're going to build through the draft, what are some of the pluses and minuses that go with that? Even though you have the same cap space, but they're going to go with a young quarterback with this team.
The huge plus is that you have money now to spend on the rest of the team, at least through the first 4 years of the contract, and even 5 years. Well, under the old CBA, when you brought in a guy high, you could get killed if it didn't work out. Now with the new CBA, draft picks are reasonable contracts for the first 4 years, and even that fifth-year option are reasonable contracts. You go pay a guy at $25 million, $30 million, whatever that number is, you're getting him at a premium, and it affects the whole rest of the lineup.
Well, you mentioned the term force multiplier, which is one of your favorites, and I thought of it when I've heard some of the commentary surrounding Kirk, because this last year in Washington, while he wasn't bad by any means, it was the worst of these last 3 years that he's had. They had the fewest wins, but he also had the fewest yards, lowest quarterback rating, fewest or most interceptions, I should say. A lot of people said, well, lost to Sean Jackson, lost Pierre Garçon, and it got me thinking about one of the things you say, which is, well, if you're going to pay a guy what he's going to get paid, he needs to be someone that it's not irrelevant, but it's not as relevant who the people are around him, because he makes the people around him better. How much of that is a concern for you, that when he lost his top two weapons, his level of play dropped off significantly?
It's a huge concern for me, and that's always a red flag, because if you have to talk about paying or supporting your franchise quarterback with a bunch of elite playmakers, then I don't know if he's really a franchise quarterback. When you look at Tom Brady, year after year after year, there's new guys, and whoever comes in has a bunch of receptions. He's not a household name before he gets there, and then he is. When you insert a guy like Randy Moss, it's an explosive situation. So if we're sitting around talking about, well, he needs two really good outside receivers, a great tight end, then you kind of have a guy.
Well, if you look at the players that he did lose, they are not elite players. Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon, they are proven NFL commodities, 1,000-yard receivers. But also, the only thing Nick didn't tell you was the guy they did go out and get, Terrell Pryor, he only caught 20 passes. So I don't know. You got to have somebody catch the ball. Like, we like to give the credit all the quarterback, and we like to give him all the blame. Their skilled players were not good. Their best player was Tristan Thompson, the running back, who was a backup. Like, he was their best offensive player. So trying to knock Kirk Cousins for not playing with guys because Tom Brady plays with a bunch of normal people, like, that's not the way to compare a quarterback. Kirk Cousins, what he went through this year in Washington was not his fault. To be able to throw for 4,000 yards with those guys, like, that was an accomplishment. If you watch the games and you watch the football that was played. So to me, the numbers would indicate that it wasn't his most productive year, but to me it's one of his most successful, because who he was playing with and the situation that they dealt with on the offensive line and with their tight end from injury standpoint.
Yeah, I'm not advocating that you can have anybody off the street come in and play the position, but I do think those guys, Aaron Rodgers, for example, Peyton Manning, they can take guys and elevate them. Now, you want to have as high a starting point as you can. You get a situation like you had with Randy Moss. You saw how incredible that worked out. It's just when you have to constantly talk about surrounding a player with elite talent, that makes me concerned about how elite he is.
Given the Jets' cap situation, would they have the resources if they gave him that contract? Would they have the resources to find the different pieces to surround him with?
Well, it's going to take a significant portion of the cap. It depends how they structure it. You can front end it, you can back end it, you could push it off for a couple of years so that you're really borrowing on the future. It will depend organizationally how they want to structure and what kind of push they want to make in free agency overall this offseason.
You mentioned front-ending it. Would you have reservations? The thing that I've advocated, whether it be Cleveland, who has over $100 million in cap space, the Jets were likely to have over $85 million once they make a couple more moves, that they could significantly front-load a contract to where the signing bonus is usually prorated over the entirety of it. You could give him almost the entirety of the signing bonus in year one. So let's say he gets 5 years, $150 million. It's obviously a $30 million average. If you backload it, it goes 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. If you flipped that around, and you did maybe $50 million in year one and then $25 million each of the next four, is that something, from a team-building perspective, if you can afford it in year one, would be attractive to you?
Look, the more that you can structure it so that you have the ability to get out of it, or you can pay as you go, so that each year you're not looking at a situation where you've got to dramatically change the team in order to go out in free agency and improve the team. That's great, but you're seeing a head coach and a GM that needs to win, and you're going to borrow against future years.
You have to cut him in year 3, though, because all that's going to come to hit the cap. So, like, your first year, you're going to have a party. But then, after that, it's going to be a nightmare. And people are going to be coming for your head and your job, Mr. Salary Cap Manager.
Well, if you front-load it, it's not a bloodbath. It's only a bloodbath if you've backloaded the signing bonus.
But if you're the GM and head coach and you need a contract extension, you're going to backload it because you'll get the extension and you'll get as much as you can right now to hopefully give you the chance to see the rest of that contract.
We're taking a break, but, Coach, we're going to see you again a little later in the show. Coming up, are the Steelers playing with fire when it comes to Le'Veon Bell? That's next on First Things First.
Why are you always hating on my dream of being a capologist? Why are you always doing that to me? It's just...
From space, you can see how strange the Earth is.
It's Golden Corral's Prime Rib and Shrimp Spectacular. Slow roasted prime rib, butterfly shrimp, bone-in catfish, and more. It's time to saddle up. The Prime Rib and Shrimp Spectacular. Just $13.99 every night. Your choice rules.
Crybaby?
Yes. It was the Green Mile.
How is that the Green Mile?
This is me crying as I did through much of the film.
What they thought was a normal game night